Um, I think for me personally, this is quite enriching, in terms of people coming from different backgrounds and talking about conservation, talking about circular economic to democracy. It's really interesting. And whatever said and done, I think we must all understand that whatever background you come from, I think we are all connected. I think this is where, at the bottom line that we must understand, when I speak. And it was also very enriching this morning that, when Dr. Siegel talked about, the series of the extinctions, perhaps the 5 cycle of extinctions, that has actually happened on this earth. And the prediction of extinction for the next 50 years, including ourselves, if you are not careful. Basically my talk will actually complement, what Dr. Singh has actually talked about. So here I'll be talking about the saving from extinction, one of the critically endangered species called White Bellied Heron in our country, And before I go into this, I would also like to take you briefly through, who we are. Sorry. I think RSPN, as most of you may already heard, or you already know that, RSPN is a non-governmental organization. It was established in 1987 under the royal command of His Majesty the Fourth King. RSPN was also blessed with the royal patronage of His Majesty the King himself from 1999 to 2012. And currently we are again blessed to have the royal patronage of Her Majesty the Queen of Bhutan. This is our vision and mission as an organization, and this vision and mission was framed in 1987, perhaps, when the organization was established. And our mission was that future generation of Bhutan will live in an environmental sustainable society with a mission to inspire the personal responsibility and the active involvement of people of Bhutan in the conservation of the kingdom's environment through holistic using ecosystem-based solutions. Here to conduct this kind of conservation work, we use this a circle to represent, our conservation journey. We call it ourselves a Conservation Mandala, basically explaining, how these 4 approaches at the outer circle is being used to implement the conservation activity or the programs of the 10 thematic area in the middle to reach at the overarching goal of the RSPN. Of course, I think the goal is not only for RSPN, but I think it is also for the global community, perhaps I should say that, that environmentally sustainable society. The 4 approaches, at this outer circle, such as, this community engagement and development, research and monitoring, species-based conservation, environmental education advocacy has been RSPN strength for the last 15 years. And the 10 thematic areas that you see in the middle are based on the national and international priorities and concern, which is also aligned to support the Sustainable Development Goal of the United Nations. And amongst these 10 thematic areas, the conservation of the white-bellied heron and the black-necked crane has always been, the primary focus of the RSPN. And here, I will be briefly talking about white-bellied heron. As I said earlier, white-bellied heron is critically endangered all over the world. We had this international conference in 2015. And during the international conference, it was confirmed that there are less than 60 individuals all over the world. And Bhutan actually hosts 50% of this global population. Well, as of 2015, Bhutan actually has 28 individuals, and perhaps 18 individuals in Myanmar and 6 in India. It's very sad to know that it's already being extinct from Nepal and Bangladesh. And currently, Bhutan hosts 25 individuals with 5 juveniles. And very recently, I think you must have also seen in the Facebook and Twitter, and as well in the newspaper, that one individual has made an accident and died. This is to show that the global distribution of the habitat range in 1930s. You would actually see that how white-bellied heron distribution range is widely pronounced in 1930s, and eventually in 2015 the habitat actually has really shrunk in a very thin line as projected in the habitat range countries, and that are because it is not nice from the conservation point of view, especially for me to say that the decrease in the habitat range is because of the hydropower plants. But the fact is that hydropower plant construction has been going on in all these range countries, and that has actually eventually lead to the decrease in fish population in the river. And when the hydropower comes in, a lot of people comes in, and white-bellied heron is one bird that cannot actually tolerate the disturbance of the people. And other disturbances are combined with natural disturbance like predators, forest fire. In Bhutan, white-bellied heron is found along Puna Sangchu in Mochu and Puna Sangchu. Then also in Mangdichu and some part in Kurichu. And you would actually see that, I think these are self-explanatory for you, that the dots in the map actually means that, that these are the observation points, for us, and these are being laid, these observation points for the last 15 years, and we are still, monitoring these birds, very aggressively. And this is just to show that, the population dynamics of the white-bellied heron in Bhutan. You actually see that through RSPN's rigorous kind of effort, conservation effort, we were actually able to maintain plus and minus 3 up and down. And as I said earlier, we currently have 25 individuals. One of the very major endorsement that came out from the international conference in 2015 was the need for captive breeding facility center. RSPN has been negotiating very aggressively again with the hydropower plant companies, for the last many years. And in 2016, with the help of some of our parliamentary members, ex-parliamentary members here, I think they are very much aware. They were also being part of, this negotiation, with the hydropower plant companies, and we were actually able to get this. The approval from the hydropower plant companies, and the construction is currently going on, and we expect to finish this construction by end of this year. The chick, I think. Okay, anyway, the chick that I have shown here is to show you that the captive breeding piloting was done in 2011, and this was successfully done through artificial incubations, and we have successfully released in the wild. And currently, RSPN is carrying very aggressive program on white-bellied heron conservation through community incentive-based approach, consultation with the governments and hydropower plant companies, planning, meeting with local governments and local communities, collaborative field assessment and activity implementations, education awareness, then regular monitoring and evaluation. Then on the species-based conservation programs are these are the few the comprehensive the activity that RSPN was doing and will also keep on doing. The comprehensive survey on white-bellied heron and hunting of their nest along these habitat areas. Satellite telemetric tagging on post-flight juveniles to study their behavior and also their life history, and habitat foraging and nesting, evaluation of fish population above and below hydropower plants, development of strategies for collection of eggs and juveniles, construction of captive breeding, as I said earlier, and also to establish funds to support the ex situ and in situ conservation. Okay, perhaps the question we have to ask ourselves is, why white bellied heron? Why white bellied heron? As I said earlier, white bellied heron is important not because it's critically endangered, but such type of species are important because they represent our ecosystem. A healthy ecosystem, in the rivers, and the healthy ecosystem, of its surroundings. And because of that, that reasons, of course there are other reasons, which probably I may, I think interact with you, when you ask questions. I think for me, what we also have to be mindful, as this morning the Dr. Sige rightly said that, what we have to be mindful is that, conservation is not only about, saving this kind of a flagship species, tigers, forests, and of course, we also talked about plastics in the oceans. I think eventually it is all about saving ourselves on this planet. And that is very important. And that is why, currently, the global community all over is putting a lot of, important emphasis on conservation. As I said, we are also putting a lot of ex situ in situ conservation efforts. We also have instituted this International Technical Advisory Committee on White Bellied Heron in 2016. And the committee comes from all over the world, as you see in the slides. And their main role is not only to technically backstop on the conservation of the white-bellied heron, but also raise funds. Because at the end of the day, if we have no money, we cannot do anything. And this is just to briefly show the conservation partners that RSPN has been working with, for the last 25 years. Not necessarily all of these conservation partners put emphasis on the conservation of the white-bellied heron, but there are a few, such as MABA Foundations, International Crane Foundations, Bhutan Trust Fund, and now even Bhutan for Life, for that matter, and of course WWF in Bhutan as well. Thank you. Visit us at this site. We have all the information there, what we do, what we have done, and what we will be doing for the next 20 years from now. Thank you so much.